AITA for ghosting my boyfriend after a year together, just because he was too afraid to tell his parents about me. When I look back at how everything began, it almost feels like a story someone else told me, not my own. It feels too clean, too romantic, too safe, like something scripted. The kind of story you'd expect to keep building into a perfect life together. But real life isn't a script. Real life twists, folds, tangles, and sometimes breaks in ways you don't want to admit. That I'm 23F and my boyfriend is 27M. We've been friends longer than we've been dating, and sometimes I wonder if that's what makes this so hard. He wasn't just a stranger I happened to meet and fall for. He was part of my world before he was ever my boyfriend. We've known each other through church, through family events, through mutual friends. For years, we existed on the edges of each other's lives, circling closer and closer until we finally collided. People used to joke that we were destined. There's this whole idea of the red string theory, that invisible thread tying two souls together, no matter the distance, no matter the detours. When we started dating, I let myself believe it. It was too perfect not to. We'd both grown up in the same faith community, sat through the same sermons, sang the same hymns, probably crossed paths 100 times without realizing it. And when we finally recognized each other as more than acquaintances, it felt like discovering treasure buried in my own backyard. For the first year, it was everything I thought love was supposed to be. He made me feel safe, supported, cherished. He wasn't like the guys before him, the ones who texted back only when they were bored, the ones who treated me like an option. He made me laugh, asked about my day, remembered the little details I casually mentioned. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in a relationship that didn't require me to constantly prove my worth. And it wasn't just me who noticed. My family adored him. They welcomed him with open arms, inviting him to dinners, birthdays, casual barbecues. My mom would ask if he was coming over before she even asked about my own plans. My dad shook his hand with that approving nod I'd rarely seen him give anyone I dated. My siblings teased us, but in that affectionate way that meant they liked him. To my family, he wasn't just my boyfriend. He was practically one of us. It made me so happy to see the people I loved embrace the person I loved. It felt like the world was aligning, like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. I didn't have to fight to make them see his value. They just did. And I thought, if my family can see how amazing he is, surely his will too. But that's where the cracks began. Because his family wasn't like mine. From the beginning, I knew he had a complicated relationship with his parents, especially his mom. He told me stories about her temper, about how she could control a room with nothing but a look, about how he'd spent most of his life trying not to disappoint her. He said he loved his parents, but lived in fear of their disapproval. At first, I thought he was exaggerating. Every family has its dramas, right? But as our relationship deepened, it became clear he wasn't exaggerating at all. He refused to tell them about me. At first, I didn't mind. We were new, still figuring each other out. I understood wanting to keep things private until you were sure. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into a year, and I was still a ghost in his family's world. No introductions, no casual mentions, nothing. He lived two separate lives, the one with me and the one with them. And the wall between those worlds only seemed to grow taller. That I tried to be patient. I told myself it was just fear, that he needed time, that eventually he'd find the courage. I told myself love meant waiting, supporting, understanding. And for a while, I believed it. But patience has a way of fraying when it's stretched too thin. And mine was starting to unravel. The longer we dated, the more the silence from his side of the family became unbearable. It wasn't just that I hadn't met them. It was that I didn't exist to them. When he was with me, he was attentive, affectionate, present. But the moment his phone rang and I saw Mom flash on the screen, something shifted. His posture straightened, his voice softened, and his words became clipped and careful. If I was in the room, he would walk into another. If I asked afterward what she said, his answers were vague, dismissive. At first, I told myself it was cultural, maybe generational. Some families are more private. Some mothers are harder to impress. But the more I asked, the clearer it became. This wasn't about culture, and it wasn't about privacy. It was about fear. Pure, paralyzing fear. That I tried to approach it gently. I'd ask if he thought about introducing me, if he wanted me to meet his family. He'd nod, smile, and change the subject. I'd mention how my family loved him, how easy it was, how natural. He'd tense up and say, "It's different with us." Different how? He never answered. The more I pressed, the more defensive he became. "You don't understand what my mom is like," he'd say. "She'll ruin everything." Or worse, "If she knew about you, she'd make me choose." And maybe that was true. But wasn't the whole point of love choosing each other, even when it was hard? Every time we brushed against the subject, I left feeling like a secret, a shadow, a placeholder. He'd reassure me in other ways, with gifts, with affection, with promises whispered in the dark. He'd tell me I was the best thing in his life, that he didn't know how he got so lucky, that he saw forever when he looked at me. And yet, forever couldn't be built on invisibility. My family started to notice, too. They'd ask why I hadn't met his parents yet, why we weren't included in their holidays, why he was always busy when they planned events. I made excuses for him, but every excuse made me feel smaller. It was one thing to lie to myself. It was another to lie to the people who loved me. The real breaking point came one night on a video call. We'd been talking about our future, moving in together, maybe even marriage one day. He was excited, his eyes glowing, his words spilling out like he could already see it all laid out before us. And instead of feeling swept up in his vision, I felt cold. Because how could he talk about forever when he couldn't even say my name in front of his mother? I finally told him what I'd been holding in. I said, "I want to support you, I want to stand by you, but I can't be the only one carrying this. You're so afraid of losing that you've already lost. You can't hide me forever." He froze. His face went pale, and he looked at me like I'd betrayed him just by speaking the truth. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just said he was tired, that he couldn't talk about it right then. And then he hung up. I cried that night, not because of the fight itself, but because of what it revealed. We weren't on the same team. I was fighting for us to be real, and he was fighting to keep us hidden. The next morning, he texted like nothing happened. Memes, good morning, messages, little check-ins. He wanted to keep things light, easy, normal. And for the first time, I didn't want normal. I wanted progress. I wanted change. I wanted proof that I wasn't wasting my love on someone too afraid to show the world we existed. That was the moment I considered ghosting him. It wasn't a plan, not yet. It was just a thought, a whisper. What if I stopped replying? What if I pulled away until he was forced to decide? What if silence could do what words never could? I hated myself for thinking it. Ghosting is cruel. It leaves people spinning in confusion, begging for answers that never come. I'd been ghosted before, and it nearly broke me. And yet, the idea lodged in my brain and wouldn't let go. Because wasn't he already ghosting me, in a way? Ghosting me from his family, from his real life, from the parts of himself that mattered most? I told myself I wouldn't do it. I told myself I'd be patient a little longer, that I'd keep giving him chances to step up. But patience had already stretched thin, and every unanswered hope made the silence in my heart louder. Didn't know it yet, but the decision was coming. And when it did, it would feel less like a choice and more like inevitability. The morning after that video call, I stared at his name lighting up my phone screen. A text, "Good morning, beautiful." Another, "Don't forget your coffee before work." Then a string of trivial updates, memes, emojis, little jokes that once would have made me smile that I couldn't bring myself to answer. It wasn't that I didn't care. It wasn't that I suddenly hated him or wanted to hurt him. It was that every word he sent felt like a bandage slapped over a wound that needed stitches. He wanted to keep things easy, light, unbothered. I wanted acknowledgement that we weren't. Okay. I wanted proof that he was willing to fight for us in the daylight, not just in the dark corners where no one else could see. I put my phone face down and let the messages stack up. 10 unread. Then 15. By noon, 20. Each vibration felt like a stone dropping into my chest. Part of me expected him to stop, to give me space, to take the hint. But another part of me knew him too well. He didn't give up easily, not on me. By the end of the day, he called 6 times. By night, the texts weren't just memes and good mornings anymore. They were questions. "Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Please talk to me." That should have been the moment I caved. That should have been the moment I broke the silence and explained myself, told him I needed more, told him the truth. But instead, I doubled down. Because wasn't this what I wanted? To make him face the weight of what he was avoiding? To show him that pretending everything was fine was no longer enough. The days blurred together, my resolve both solid and cracking. Each morning I'd wake up to dozens of unread messages. Each night I'd fall asleep with guilt twisting in my stomach. He was spiraling, I knew it. He lived in his head enough already. And my silence was a hammer hitting every insecurity he'd ever confessed to me. And still, I stayed quiet that I crafted excuses in my mind. If I tell him I need space, I'll just end up talking again too soon. If I confront him, he'll retreat into fear again. If I keep silent, maybe he'll finally realize he can't hide me forever. But the truth was messy. I was scared. Scared to see his disappointment if I demanded more. Scared to hear him admit he wasn't ready to choose me over his parents. Scared to find out that love wasn't enough to make him brave. Ghosting wasn't just about him avoiding his family. It was about me avoiding the truth that my friends noticed. They saw me ignoring my phone, heard it buzzing endlessly during hangouts. "Why don't you just talk to him?" they asked. I shrugged, muttered something about needing time. I didn't tell them the whole truth, that every unanswered text felt like a rope pulling tighter around both of us. And I wasn't sure if I was trying to free him or strangle what we had left. It'd be by the end of the first week, his messages had shifted from confusion to desperation. "Please, I can't stop thinking about what I did wrong. Please just tell me if you're okay. I love you. I don't know what's happening, but I love you. I'll do better. I'll fix it. Just talk to me." I stared at those words for hours. Once, they would have been everything I wanted to hear. Now, they felt like proof of exactly what I feared. He didn't understand. He thought this was about fixing something small, adjusting, smoothing things over. He didn't see the larger truth, that hiding me from his parents wasn't a small thing, it was the thing. And maybe that was unfair. Maybe I hadn't given him the tools to understand. Maybe I had set him up to fail by withdrawing instead of confronting. But I couldn't bring myself to break the silence. Ghosting is supposed to be clean, I think. You disappear, they get the message. The relationship dies quietly in the absence of words. But this wasn't clean. This was messy and painful and slow, like watching someone drown while you hold the lifeline in your hand and refuse to throw it. That I wasn't just ghosting him. I was ghosting the version of myself that had once believed love could conquer fear. Ghosting wasn't a single act. It wasn't just the moment I stopped replying. It was every day that followed, every choice to remain silent when I could have spoken. Every night, I watched his name glow on my phone and did nothing to be why the second week, his texts had slowed but not stopped. The tone shifted again, from desperation to hurt. "If you don't want this anymore, at least tell me. Don't leave me like this. I thought you loved me. Was I wrong? I don't deserve silence. Please, just give me an answer." Those words cut deeper than the please. Because he was right, he didn't deserve silence. He deserved honesty. He deserved clarity. He deserved a girlfriend who either chose him fully or didn't choose him at all. And I had become someone too cowardly to do either. I kept telling myself the silence was temporary, that I would break it when I was ready, that I just needed more time to figure out what to say. But the longer it went, the more impossible it felt to go back. How do you explain ignoring someone for days, weeks, without sounding cruel? How do you start that conversation without it becoming a post-mortem instead of a repair? So I stayed quiet. And in that quiet, I learned things about myself I didn't want to know. I learned that I'm capable of cruelty, even while convincing myself it's kindness. I told myself I was protecting him from words that would hurt more than silence. But really, I was protecting myself from confrontation. Silence felt easier. Then watching his face fall when I admitted I couldn't keep doing this, I thought about unblocking the dam of words dozens of times. Drafted messages I never sent. Apologies, explanations, half-truths about needing space. But every draft ended the same way, with me admitting that the real reason wasn't space, wasn't stress, wasn't confusion. It was that I couldn't handle being with someone who loved me privately but couldn't stand up for me publicly. How do you put that into a text? How do you compress a year of love and laughter and late-night talks into a single sentence? "I can't do this anymore because I don't believe you'll ever choose me over them." I didn't send the text. I let the silence stand in for all the words I couldn't shape. That it's been a month now. He doesn't text anymore. The last message he sent was simple. "I hope you're okay. I'll stop bothering you now." I've reread it more times than I can count. Sometimes it feels like relief. Sometimes it feels like a knife. My family doesn't ask about him much anymore. When they do, I just say we're not together. They look sad, confused, but they don't push. My friends know enough to fill in the blanks. Everyone seems to move on more easily than I do, because here's the truth. I don't feel free. I thought ghosting him would unburden me, would give me space to breathe. Instead, I feel haunted. Haunted by the version of me that should have been braver, kinder, more direct. Haunted by the boy who loved me enough to try and the girl who loved him enough to hope. Until fear got in the way for both of us, I don't know if I made the right choice. I don't know if there even was a right choice. All I know is that I chose silence, and silence became its own answered, "Oh, now I'm here." Asking strangers the question I can't ask anyone else. AITA for ghosting my boyfriend after a year together, just because he was too afraid to tell his parents about me? Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story that we post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.